This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'd like to call the village board for Tuesday, June 27th to order. Roll call, please.
President Kardowski.
Here.
Trustee Paul. Here. Trustee Zerbal is excused. Trustee Atkinson is excused. Trustee Krieger.
Here.
Trustee Flukie.
Here.
And Trustee Service.
Here. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember all the men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve, please.
So move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Action on open and closed minutes from May 23rd, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda. You must state your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Are there any comments from the public that is not on the agenda? Any comments from the public on items not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. Number 7, this is a fun part. Oath of office for our new officer. Chief.
See if this works. There it is. All right, I appreciate the time. And again, I'd like to introduce one of our newest officers, recently off the FTO program. His name is Daryl Booth. Daryl, come on up. So I'll talk about him as he's walking up here. Daryl was born and raised in Texas. Attaboy. Are you going to give us a Longhorn thing or anything? We good? All right. After graduating high school, he joined the military, was in the United States Air Force, and also served in the U.S. Army. Daryl was honorably discharged and continued to serve his community as an EMT and then a paramedic. While working full-time for Aurora Bay Care Clinic as a critical care paramedic, he attended the police academy at NWTC. He also worked part-time as an assistant medical examiner for Marinette County. After graduating from the police academy, Daryl was hired by the Marinette Police Department as a full-time patrol officer. We are lucky enough that he decided that he wanted to continue to expand his education and become fire certified as well. So he started with us on February 23rd. We'll save the applause until we're done. How's that? We're going to do the oath of office, so if you want to stand facing me, I'm going to give you a microphone so those online can hear. All right? So if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Daryl Booth,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
to the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any
mental reservation
mental
or
reservation
purpose of evasion.
or purpose of
I better
evasion.
break that one up for next time. Right. And I will well and faithfully discharge.
That I will
well and faithfully
discharge
the duties of the office of Public Safety Officer
the duties of the office of Public Safety Officer
for the village of Ashwaubenon,
for the village of Ashwaubenon,
acting to the best of my ability.
acting to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Now the real pressure, the badge pinning.
Wow, she was really good at that.
That was quick.
Congratulations and thank you. Welcome, Daryl, and family. Thank you. Okay, written communications or announcements. I do have a written communication. I did receive a letter. We made Tree City USA again this year, and that's pretty important because we really cut down a lot of our trees with the ash borer, so very important. Tell Tim thank you very much for everything he does. So,
Do you know how many years it's been, Rex, since we've been Tree City? Got to be 30-some.
yeah. Okay, moving on. So number 9, we have an action on the consent agenda. A, action on 2023-2024 retail alcohol license renewals. B, action on special event application for the Packers 5K. C, consider, discuss, act on Village of Ashwaubenon ordinance number 06-1-23, amending special events. D, consider, discuss, act on resolution number R6-1-23, amending the Village of Ashwaubenon special event policy. E, consider, discuss, act on Village of Ashwaubenon ordinance number 06-2-23, amending direct seller permit exemptions. F, May year-to-date general fund financial report. G, investment report. H, budgeted expenditures. And I, department reports for June. Now, with that being said, before we pull anything, I just want to say that the reason why we put the ordinance issues here in the consent agenda is because they passed Public Works and Protection unanimously, and it's just cleanup language in those specific ordinances. So if anybody wants any of that pulled for discussion,
I don't know if you mentioned J, the Parks and Rec Department. I was going to pull that one.
okay, you want to pull, I have that as I, department reports, but you would like to pull that one? Sure,
Just Parks and Rec.
okay. So can we have a motion to approve with pulling the department reports for Park and Rec?
Move to approve except for the letter I.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, but also we do need to pull the retail alcohol license renewals. So I'm going to make a motion to pull that,
Second.
and we have a second to pull that. Okay. So, number 1, the department reports. Kelly, you had a question about that.
I saw in the materials that it was under like June of 2023 that there's a holdup or there's some materials that aren't on time or something for the Ashwaubomay Trail and Bridge project. And I was just wondering what specifically it is because I'm getting a lot of inquiries about when it's going to be done. Everybody's really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too, and I wish I can give you a better answer tonight, but the railing material for the railings on the bridge and everything depends on the railing. About 4 more pieces of work can't be done until the railings are on, and the company that's supposed to fabricate the railings has not even gotten the material in to start the fabrication. So it was supposed to be in probably 3 weeks ago, and they cannot give us an answer of when they will be receiving that. So it's a manufacturing process delay, and that's holding everything up. Now, that being said, I believe on this coming Friday, they're going to be doing some final work, final grading on the asphalt trail portion in Ashwaubomay Park. And then they will be paving, they've got a paving date of July 5th for the Ashwaubomay Park portion of the trail. And then once that's done, they'll be able to do some of the landscaping within the park area. So we've got the railing issue on the bridge itself. We've also got some grade issues around Aldon Station. And because of the grade issues and with the railings, because the landing to the west can't be done until the crane is out. The crane needs to be there for the railings. I'll be honest, for the paving at Aldon Station, we're probably looking at about mid-September to get that done. So we're still looking at this year for final completion of everything, but it's not the end of June completion date that we were hoping for.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so for the retail alcohol license renewals, on that one, we need a motion to approve the alcohol license renewals contingent upon all paperwork and corresponding fees have been received and filed accordingly, and all outstanding indebtedness to the Village of Ashwaubenon has been paid in full.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, just as I just read, Chris.
Got it.
You know, shouldn't this all be done before it's even brought here? Why is the holdup? They all know dates that we run by, and here it is coming on June or July 1, and we're giving them the benefit of the doubt because they didn't get their paperwork in?
They got their paperwork in, but they owe the finance department money, so we can hold that license until that's paid. So you can grant it tonight, I just don't issue it until that debt is paid.
And they actually have 3 days to pay it
3 days from when?
from today because it's not due till the 30th
Oh,
of June.
And then if it's not
to
paid,
the first of the month.
right, if it's not paid, then they have to stop selling at midnight on June 30th.
And to also add to that, Gary, the alternative would be to not take action on it conditioned tonight, but then required you to come back before July 1 to actually make the approval when they meet those
I know,
conditions.
we set these dates and it's, all right, they got 3 days to do it yet, so hopefully they do it.
Hopefully. Okay,
Can I ask just one question before we go on? For items C, D, and E, the ordinance changes that are on consent, I understand what you're saying, Mary, about, it went through Public Works, but I would ask that this isn't a practice that we really do lightly, because those ordinance changes should be more public, I think. And I know these are more basic, and it's a lot of cleanup language, but I just think it's important when we do an ordinance change for it not to be on consent agenda.
correct. I agree, Tracy, and this is the first time we've done this in my 6
Exactly.
years.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so does everybody understand the consent agenda? Any more questions on it? I need a motion to approve.
So move to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 10, public hearings. Public hearing regarding ordinance number 06-4-23, amending the Aldon Station Planned Unit Development PUD ordinance for rear yard setbacks for lots 4 through 16. Joel?
Okay, thank you. This, of course, as Madam President had identified, this is the public hearing for the proposed ordinance amending the planned unit development for the Aldon Station subdivision. This particular amendment to the PUD would allow lots 4 through 16 to have reduced building setbacks from the rear lot line. Lots 4 and 16 are located on the northern side of Aldon Station, basically abutting the WPS gas station. Multiple other lots in Aldon Station have already reduced building setbacks based on the approved PUD, so this would be kind of like a cleanup where it's allowing other existing lots to have that same reduced setback. The rear yard setback for the underlying zoning district, which happens to be R2, is 25 feet, so this does require a plan unit development amendment to allow for that reduced setback. It is not a variance, but an amendment to provide that relief from the existing zoning code. Again, consistent with the rear yard setbacks for the interior lots of Aldon Station. And essentially what it'll do is allow those lots 4 through 16 to have a rear deck installed within that setback area that they currently cannot provide for based on that 25-yard setback. So with that, again, this is the public hearing. Action on this particular ordinance amendment won't occur until you get to the action item on the agenda.
Okay. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against this item? Is there anybody here who would like to speak for? Sir, if you'd like to come up to the table and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, it's Dan Marshall, 351 Aldon Circle. I think that it's not a for or against, it's trying to understand, is the setback being, it said reduced, but is it being increased, like a greater setback, or the setback smaller than what it is right now?
Individual property owners in lots 4 through 16 will be able to encroach further in their rear yard without hitting the setback requirements, meaning if you wanted to have a larger deck or place a swimming pool or something like that within the rear yard, you'll have more room to do that. The current restriction is very limiting in the ability to place a deck or a pool or something in the rear yard because of the setback requirement.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Pickleball.
Pickleball, yeah.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against this item? Anybody who would like to speak for or against this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 11A, action regarding ordinance number 06-4-23, amending the Aldon Station Planned Unit Development PUD ordinance for rear yard setbacks for lots 4 through 16. Okay, does anybody have any questions on this?
Joel, can I just clarify just what this gentleman had asked? So this is a more lenient setback for the people that have there, so they could potentially put a deck or maybe a structure, accessory building in there, but with the 25-foot, it was very limited because those lots are so tight in the back. Is that a fair assessment?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of 25 yards, it would be, or 25 feet, it would be 10 feet.
This is brought in front of the plan board. We had no problem with it, knowing the situation. So I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 06-4-23, the rear yard setback change for lots 4 through 16. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 11B, Village of Ashwaubenon 2022 audit.
Well, it's that time of year to review last year's financial results. So our audit process starts in late November. We have preliminary audit, and it flows into end of February. We do a final audit, and then much late winter and spring is a lot of back and forth reporting and finalizing the audit. So our contracted auditor is Baker Tilly. John Rader is here to review the audit at a high level and certainly answer any questions and go through some of the highlights for you. When he's done, I've also on the agenda have something new to bring up. It's called the PAFR, and I'll bring that up once he's done as well.
Thanks, Greg. And thank you to the board for having me here tonight. As mentioned, my name's John Rader. I'm a familiar face to, I think, all of you, but I've been associated with the Village's audit for the last 3 years. So I'm going to take a few minutes and walk through the financial highlights. I know this is part of your packet, but I do want to mention just a couple quick things before I jump into this. We did issue finals just last week, and which gave this week for Greg to submit that to the Government Finance Officers Association, the GFOA, once again, which will hopefully be the 38th consecutive year of that award. So that's really commendable. That's a lot of years receiving that prestigious award for financial reporting. We issued what we call an unmodified opinion, clean opinion on your financial statements, and that means they are prepared according to the accounting rules or GAAP. And these days, there's 101 different accounting rules. And when I started this, there were 14. So that was about 30 years ago. So there are a lot of them to adhere to. Not all apply to the village, but many do. There's one significant new one this year, GASB 87, that relates to leases. And leases can be recorded in two different ways. As a debt situation, lessee, lease payables. The village did not have any material ones, so those did not have to get recorded this year. But the other side is lessor, the receivables. You lease something out to a vendor or other party. And that did result in a pretty significant entry, or entries, I should say, of about $7.7 million of new receivables on your books. It didn't impact any way you budget or anything of that nature, but there was a fair amount being recorded to implement that this year. All right, with that said, I'm going to walk through the highlights. And the first page I'm looking at has these bar graphs on it. And it's titled General Fund Results. So the general fund.
Do you have a page on that, on this booklet here?
And mine is page 1.
Oh.
In the packet, I'm not.
Packet page is 74 on mine.
Is that the PDF?
It's page 74 here.
There should be line graphs or bar graphs at the top. Dark blue, or light blue, I should say, which is 2022. I'll pause for a second.
Gary, it's not in that handout that you're looking at on your desk. It's in the actual packet of the agenda.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay. Okay, so this is a snapshot of your general fund balance at the end of the year. And in governmental fund balance reporting, you can have up to 5 different categories. The village has 3. So the light or sky blue lines represent 2022. The black are 2021. And I'm going to start at the bottom. Non-spendable is pretty much like it sounds. These are items that are in your fund balance, but the accounting rules or gaps say they're not available, so you can't spend them, so they get kind of locked up, so to speak, in this category. You only had $43,000 in there at the end of the year, a very small percentage of your total fund balance, which is what you want, because you want it to be in these upper categories that we're going to mention. They represent inventories and some long-term receivables. And it is down from the prior year. Restricted is up from the prior year. These are external restrictions, amounts that come into your general fund that either legislation, grants, or other items externally restricted. So those are up to $356,000 and are comprised of grants and escrowed amounts. Nothing in assigned or committed. Everything else falls into that unassigned category. So that went from 5.4 down to $5.2 million. But that represents 93% of your fund balance. So your general fund is in a very good position because being in that category, or even in the assigned if you had it, gives you a lot of flexibility to meet the needs of the village. So your overall fund balance, you can see a very summarized income statement in the middle of the same page. Under that actual column, you can see your fund balance went down or you had a loss of $306,000. That happened because your revenues, as you can see, actually came in over budget, and that was driven in large part by the room taxes, the building and other various permit fees, and public safety charges for services. But your expenditures were also over budget by $801,000, again, driven by public safety, those same 3 categories, also garbage and refuse and mass transit costs. The reasons behind that are laid out in the management discussion analysis, the MD&A, which is like an executive summary in the very front of your financials. Greg writes that narrative. The GFOA requires it. I've read a lot of these over the years. Greg does a really nice job. And so if you're kind of wondering a little bit more context behind this, I encourage you to read that. It's towards the latter part of the MD&A. So what does that mean? So that $5.2 million that we mentioned at the top there in the unassigned, if you flip to the next page, that plays into the village's fund balance policy. And so I'm looking at page 2. It's this line graph here. And it takes that unassigned fund balance and it compares it to the subsequent year or 2023's budget. And for you, that gives you a percentage of 29.8%. It's down a little bit from last year, but the policy is establishing a minimum of 20%. So it's still well above your policy, even though it has been inching down a little bit each year. If you're curious to other places that we audit in Wisconsin of similar size based on population, those are those blue dots there. So you're a little bit under there, but again, you're above your policy and you're in good shape because of the flexibility you have that we talked about on the previous page. Then shifting gears on page 3, we're going to take a look at debt. And the first way of looking at it is how much debt does the village have outstanding? And we look at it in a statutory manner. So that black line on that graph is taking your equalized value with TID in and 5% of that. So that's the statutory limit, which is 156.6 million. Very nice steady growth over the last 5 years, and it went up about 9.3% from 2021. That orangish line at the bottom is the actual GO debt, general obligation debt, that's outstanding. And that went up because you issued 12.6 and you paid off about $5 million. So overall, it went up about $7.5 million. So you're utilizing at the end of the year 42% of your debt capacity. This varies widely across municipalities that we audit in Wisconsin because of the activities of the TIFs. And a very young TIF could have a lot of outstanding GO debt. The other factor is utilities sometimes issue GO debt, some do not. But as you can see down below here, of that $65 million in GO debt outstanding, about 2.4 of it is in fact for your utilities. Last year, the debt capacity being utilized was 40%, so just a slight uptick, because even though you've had the growth in the value, the GO debt went up a little bit as well. So again, that summary at the bottom, you can see the GO debt, how that's broken down. You also have a bond anticipation note that'll be paid off shortly, 1.7, and those lease revenue bonds of 112 million is for the Resch Center that's outstanding in the CDA's books. Okay. Page 4, next page, takes a look at debt service. So how much you pay in principal and interest compared to the rest of your governmental funds expenditures. And we pull capital out of the equation to try to get it comparative from year to year, kind of apples to apples. So that's a calculated amount. It's 22% for the village. And again, you can see those black dots of other places that we audit. So you're right, pretty much in line with others that we audit. We generally try to recommend around 20% or less, and you're very close to that. There was a spike in 2020. That's because you paid off a different bond anticipation note. So the principal went way up that year, but it's back down to the levels that we've seen in the past. Okay, page 5. We're going to talk about these last three slides are focused on the 3 utility funds of the village, and the first is water, and this points out a number of different metrics to take a look at the financial health of the water fund. So again, that line graph, the green line represents revenues, the black are the expenses. And for the last 3 years, the expenses have exceeded the revenue, and that plays into those numbers up above. So the PSC, you have to apply with them to get an authorized rate of return, and the village did this a couple years ago, and those rates became effective in 2022. So that rate of return is at 6.5%. You can see your actual rate of return, though, is a negative 11 in 2021, and an improvement of that up to negative 5.2 in the current year. And again, that's because the expenses are exceeding the revenues. Now, with that rate increase coming into play in 2022, you would expect to see the revenues go up a little bit, and expenses will, in general, it's hard to anticipate entirely, but would stay flat. So we would expect to see that improve going forward. The expenses did go down a little bit this year due to lower purchased water volume and the rate studies that were incurred in 2021 that you did not have to pay again in 2022. Another analysis is down about 2/3 of the way down, the unrestricted reserves. So this is cash, unrestricted cash. So it's no different than you and I, or what we might have in our checking account. That's a good indicator of the health of the fund. Generally, we would recommend, as with GFOA, 3 to 6 months for liquidity purposes, plus a year or so for routine capital additions. So your water fund is at 11.2 at the end of 2022. It's been creeping upwards for the last couple of years, which is a good indicator, and that's still a good number. The investment in capital is an analysis of how much of the plant, because all these utility funds are very plant or capital intensive, how much of it has been derived from earnings or equity, and that's at green, versus debt. And so we generally recommend 50% or more coming from earnings, and you're at 87%, so there's no concern there. Okay. And it has capacity to issue more if it needed to. Sewer, very similar analysis. Green are revenues, this is page 6, and black are expenses. The revenue increased a little bit from the prior year. That's consistent because they're very tied in with the water volume increase. Expenses increase as well, though, because of the increase in the sewer treatment charges that get passed through with the increased volume and additional depreciation expense on plant this year. The unrestricted reserves, again, same recommendations to maintain around a year. So you're under that, something just to keep an eye on. It's at 7.7 at the end of the year. No red flags or anything of that nature, but something to keep an eye on going forward to make sure that those rates do still make sense. The nice thing about this fund is it doesn't have any outstanding debt, so all the plant has been funded through earnings.
Is there a recommendation on the sewer utility, how many months you want to have on hand, similar to water utility?
Yeah, it would be very similar.
Very similar.
3 to 6 months for liquidity, and then projecting out what those capital needs might be, you want to factor that into it as well. I think the DNR requires the rates to be reviewed once every 2 years, kind of informally, not as rigorous as a PSC because it's not regulated like that fund is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. And then lastly, the Stormwater Utility Fund on page 7. Here you can see positive operating results for the last 5 years where revenues are exceeding. There was an increase in the revenues this year. The revenues are driven by the equivalent runoff units, ERUs, applied against the rate, so that there was an uptick there. Expenses also went up, though, because of increased engineering costs and contractual services. So it's very typical to see revenues be pretty flat in a stormwater fund, but expenses can be a little bit volatile because of especially if it doesn't have any outstanding debt, whereas it's pretty much flat, and then you incur some, stormwater or drainage area expenses, and they spike, and then they go back down. But as you can see down below, your unrestricted reserves or cash are very healthy. They're at 26 months, okay? So again, no concerns there, that's for sure, and no debt in this fund. Any questions on the numbers? I just want to mention briefly one other report, but any questions on these numbers?
I just have a question on our fund balance policy. It's set at 20%, you said, correct?
Is a minimum.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
Is there any reason for us to relook at it? We're always way above that number. Should our policy be more consistent with what we're actually at?
So that's an excellent question. And the fact you have a policy is great, because if you didn't, we would definitely recommend that. I do see a lot of municipalities establish a range instead of a minimum. They'd say, we want to establish a minimum and maximum. And then they'll add on to that if you go beyond the maximum, we're going to use it for this specific purpose, either infrastructure needs, so you reduce your borrowing, other types of capital needs, whatever it may be. So there's a definite purpose for those funds instead of just letting it build. So that's one consideration. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. I've had some clients go as far as contracting with GFOA to try to help them set a policy. That's probably not necessary, but what you have is good. Does it make sense? I think that's for you to decide, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We have a nice high fund balance, but I agree with what you're saying, that, a range, or even if we get over a certain amount, we look at putting that back in some manner, just so we're not holding so much money. I guess just to look at it and see what we would want to do.
The village, I've just worked with you for years, but I do like the fact that at the end of the year, you reevaluate where it's at and look at the other funds. And that's one nice thing. We don't run through all the other funds here, but the village has a lot of other funds, the TIFs and everything else, internal service fund, benefits and all kinds of different things that it evaluates. And if there is a surplus, there have been situations where it'll move funds. So you don't have any other funds that are leaning on or borrowing from the general fund, which is quite common at a lot of other places. So TIFs are in the hole, or sometimes a utility, or whatever it may be. And that non-spendable component that we talked about is much higher, and it's tying up your fund balance.
Yeah.
So you don't have that situation, which is
good.
somewhat unique.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. The other report that we issue is called the audit results. I'm not going to walk you through it. I know you received it. There's required communications in there that our auditing standards require. Upcoming GASBs, some brief discussions on those, the management representations that we receive, and some internal control issues. There's no new points in there. The more segregation of duties things. There are some changes in the finance personnel that occurred about a year ago now, and so some additional controls were put into place. So we'll look at those again when we go into the 2023 audit, and my assumption would be that some of those will fall off. Okay. Other than that, I just want to say thank you and see if you have any other questions or comments.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I would just like to say to Greg, thank you to the Finance Department for doing such a great job. Good to see these reports.
Thank you.
Yeah, Greg does a wonderful job, and I've been doing this for a long time, and it is hard to find good finance people these days, so we appreciate working with him and his preparedness. So thank you.
Good. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Oh,
So I just want to add, it's on the agenda item, the other thing that in conjunction to the audit, as John alluded to earlier, the MD&A, that's within the, what used to be called the CAFR is now the ACFR. They put annual in front of comprehensive. So that is on our website. I don't print it. It's a very large document. I would recommend going out, if you want to, if anything, read that MD&A. Read it's a little more in-depth summary, provides a little more detail to you and to the public. So in conjunction with that, another kind of recommended practice or kind of the next level is what's called a PAFR, which is a popular annual financial report. It's a very condensed, and I included it in the packet, and it's on our website as well. And, you know, as it states, it's really just intended to be a real high-level snapshot for the general public, just kind of understand, kind of think of your own personal finances. How much money do I have? You know, what do we spend things on? How do we make money? Real high level, and give some other statistics, some graphs. How does our spend break out between our different departments? Where do our revenues come from? Mostly specifically to the general fund, but does touch base on some of the utilities as well. But I would encourage you to go out there and look at that. It's a document that I'll probably submit to the GFOA for an award as well. And then in the fall, Joel and I are working towards the budget award process so that all three of these documents are all tied in together and they tie into all our policies, and it just helps secure our financial position.
Yeah, I read through this. This is good. It's easier to understand. I think that the general public could look at it and really understand our financing, because I think it's difficult for people to understand just because a municipal government has very different budgeting than a typical business or person does. So this is well done. I like it.
Thank you.
okay. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, John. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, 11C, action on appeal of denied operator's license, Quadrina Taylor.
So I'm going to hand it over to the chief, but just so you're aware, Ms. Taylor is here.
Okay, chief?
Yeah, just going through this to let you know as well that the Public Works and Protection Committee voted to approve her appeal on a 3-to-1 vote. My denial was simply based on the fact that she had a felony regarding delivery of a controlled substance, as well as failure to list several things that she was convicted of. And so that was the reason for the denial. I'm also not opposed, obviously, to the approval of her appeal as well.
Okay, any questions, comments? Would you like to hear from Quadrina?
I would.
Sure. Okay,
I move to open the floor.
Second.
motion to open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. If you'd like to state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Quadrina Taylor, 2108 Carstensen Lane.
Okay. Okay, if you'd like to explain your appeal.
Well, first of all, it wasn't an intentional, I did not intentionally not write things down. I don't know, Chief, if you noticed that on the back I had written some other charges because there wasn't enough room on the front page.
Yeah, I did notice that, but I think you failed to disclose a 92 conviction for disorderly conduct.
Yeah, that's, and I didn't, until I printed everything out, I mean, that was back in 1992.
Yeah. And that's fine, but, you know, just based on our guidelines, that was the reason for my denial. I mean, that's why I had no issue with, you know, the appeal, and that was granted as well.
And that's the main, it wasn't an intentional thing. I went on the application, they give you a website to go on to look, and I looked on there and I didn't really see even some of the things I listed. It wasn't until I got a hold of the village office or whatever, and she gave me a website that I had to pay for to get everything printed out that I realized what I had missed. And you know, it was just a long time ago. I'm not the same person that I was back then. You know, I'm clean, I'm sober. You know, I have a totally different life I have a good life. I have a happy life. You know, I love my job, and I don't want to have to not be able to work where I work because I can't, you know, sell them alcohol or beer. We only sell beer. I work at a gas station, you know, I'm a friendly face, I love my customers, you know, I just don't want this stopping me from doing something I really enjoy doing.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Well, we denied it at the Public Works and Protection for a number of other reasons, too.
No, Gary, you guys approved the appeal on hers.
Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Wait, I was going to say,
Yep, you approved her appeal.
right, so then why is she here then?
Because you have to final approve it here at the board.
You're right, I'm sorry. Okay, this is the one we did approve, you're right, all right.
Chief, can I just clarify with you? So her most recent issue, I guess, was the shoplifting in 2009, is that correct?
I think there was a 2011 OWI, if I remember correct. Yep.
I had a 2011 DUI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the last one, Chief?
That's last
Yeah.
one. Okay. I'll make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The floor is closed. Thank you very much. Okay, discussion.
I would make a motion to approve her liquor license. Bartender's license, I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the operator's license for Quadrina Taylor. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
We can mail it, or you can come get it tomorrow.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. 11D, action on appeal of denied operator's license, Jeffrey J. Woulf. Okay, Chief?
Okay, this one was upheld at Public Works and Protection. The denial was upheld. The main question here is Mr. Woulf is contesting an OWI that happened in Pennsylvania, I believe in 2009. So one of the things that I appreciate, Chris was able to give me the prior application. So I went back there and looked at, because we were trying to figure out why it wasn't denied previously. So in the previous application packet, for some reason, I did not have his Wisconsin driver's license data to look at. So all I looked at was the 2016 conviction in Louisiana. So that only had one. So when I actually ran the information from his DL, he actually has three. And one of those, obviously in Louisiana, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So he's contesting the Pennsylvania one. I denied it because he has three, which makes him, you know, in our review, a habitual offender for OWIs. So I'll let him speak on that. I'm sure he's going to deny it as well. But again, we relied on the DOT information that we get, that we run, and it still comes back. And I ran it actually just before this meeting to confirm that it was still on there. And yes, it is still on there. So he has, from our record, he has 3
So
OWI convictions.
that takes care of the discrepancy we had on what we didn't know that you already found out is right then, on the 3.
Per the DOT records, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to open the floor?
I'll move to open the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. State your name and address for the record, please.
Jeffrey Woulf, 2541 Northern Harrier Pass.
Okay. Would you like to explain your appeal, please?
My appeal, as Chief Roth has stated, that 2009, 5/15/2009, I was living in Houston, Texas. I was not in Pennsylvania. I did, because I was not afforded the record that he's referring to do my own research on, I did go through the Magistrates of Pennsylvania's website, and there is a Jeffrey J. Woulf. It's spelled differently. Chief Ross says it is a Jeffrey James Woulf, spelled W-O-U-L-F. But I know for certain those are very memorable offenses. The 91 in Ohio, the 16 in Louisiana, I remember very well. The mug shots, the fingerprinting, the hiring of attorney, bailing out, the tremendous cost. I did not have that one. So other than my denial with no copy of the record to prove my innocence, that's all I can say. It wasn't me. So I do have the 2.
Chief, one of the things I was wondering, so if there are 3 OWIs and one of them is, 32 years ago, would that be considered a felony?
No, not. I mean, back then it wouldn't have been, and even in today's standard, you got to have 4 to be considered a felony. So. Okay,
I was because I know that there are issues when there's felonies within X amount of years. Yeah. So, does anybody?
The only question I have is, how come he was granted a license and now this shows up?
Gary, as I explained in the last packet of last year, I did not have the driver's license information that showed he had 1 in Ohio and 1 in Pennsylvania. I did not have that information when I approved it.
And that's, okay.
That's why.
You're repeating yourself. Okay.
So I approved it thinking he had 1, when in actuality he has 3, according to our records.
Okay.
Would that one, Chief, from 32 years ago be recognized?
I would recognize it. I wouldn't deny it based on that, right? I am only denying it because he has 3. That's an habitual offender, and so that's the reason for the denial. So, again, I think the most recent one was 2016 in Louisiana. That's his most recent one.
And that's not on the application here.
Yes, that's on the application.
Mr. Wolf's previous application, when he was granted, had the Louisiana 2016 conviction. The one that Chief's referring to, this year's application, Mr. Woulf did disclose the 2016 Louisiana conviction. However, he's saying he didn't know about the 2009 and the 1991 convictions. So the Chief listed those, and those are on this year's review. So the 2015 or 16 OWI is on both. So he was granted a license previously with the most recent OWI conviction. That makes sense.
I've got one on 15.
Yeah, it could be 15 within a charge date, and it's 2016 conviction date.
Okay.
And he also did not disclose on this application his 1991 OWI. Granted, it was a long time ago, but it still wasn't on the application.
So the 2009 one that happened in Pennsylvania, that's the one you're saying you weren't there?
Chief Ross won't even tell me what city, what county. There's no way I can research that because it wasn't me. I mean, I know it was the year my father died. I came here to Green Bay. I was not in Pennsylvania that year. Mm-hmm. This right here shows that Jeffrey J. Woulf, spelled 2 different ways, living in central PA, but it's W-O-L-F-F and W-O-L-F-E. It's not me. I spell it W-O-U-L-F. I went and got my driver's license the day I filed the renewal for Wisconsin. They only had the 91 and the 16 offense. Somehow this 2009 one's coming up. I don't know who it is. It's not me. That's all I can say.
So Chief, if he had put the 91 on his application, would you have,
I still would deny it because our record shows he has 3.
It's the 2009 one that's doing it.
Correct.
You're right. There's a dispute between whether this is the actual Mr. Jeffrey J. Woulf of 2009 Pennsylvania conviction. So when public safety and staff, we run our records, our record background check, it's presumed accurate based on the information we receive from the DOT. That's what we use. That's what courts use to find prior convictions. That's what judges use to determine sentencing factors. So it's the exact same data that's used. It's presumed accurate. So under the law and the statutes, Mr. Woulf has to present some kind of evidence to refute that presumption of accuracy. Now, I respectfully, Mr. Woulf came forward and he's saying that there's 2 Jeffrey J. Woulfs in Pennsylvania. Okay, fair, but it's really the evidence of, if the board finds that that is, the board could consider that as refutable evidence. However, the driver's license information provided is presumed accurate from what we have received. Now, with that being said, the board can take things into consideration for what's called mitigating circumstances. How long it's been since his prior conviction, 2015 is most recent. What has Mr. Woulf done since then? Has he attempted to, I guess, right the wrongs of trying to find this wasn't Mr. Jeffrey J. Woulf, it was a different person, and as well as the board could consider what has he done the last year or 2 since he's had the license. So mitigating circumstances. Now, that's one thing. Number 2, the board should consider the chief's records that it's been presented as accurate unless they're refuted by Mr. Woulf.
How long should we consider an offense to be probative, do you think? I mean, that
1991.
Some municipalities say, I've seen other it's really at the standards of the board, and this municipality, I've seen some dating some as far as, like, I think Madison, for an example, takes into consideration things that are 15 years plus, but it also depends on what the conviction is.
That's like 20-some years ago. I kind of
32.
I feel
32.
like
Yeah.
So just so you guys are aware that we've gone through the alcohol guidelines when we first started doing all this, and we've run it through CIVMIC as well. So the following guidelines apply to alcohol license applications. In there, though, what the board needs to consider is what we call a habitual law offender. It doesn't give a number, it just says multiple charges substantially related to alcohol or drug activity will be considered automatic disqualifiers.
Yeah. The woman before me had 4 felony convictions. I had 2 misdemeanors. Yep.
Chris, can I ask, Mr. Woulf had a license last year. Any issues or concerns with his license or any problems that he had with the license that he had?
Yeah, not that I've been made aware of.
I have the administrator and my manager behind me as support. I performed my job very well without incident for 18 months that this board afforded me to have.
Any other questions, concerns, or we can close the floor?
I'll move to close the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The floor is closed. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Woulf. Okay, discussion.
I'd like to open up the floor again to have Lee Amundson come up and speak for this man. I know he is a bartender at the Moose Club, and I am a member of the Moose Club. I know he does a decent job. I've talked to several other people.
Gary, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open the floor again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, continue, Gary, if you.
Lee, well, anyway, Chief, I respect what you do and what you say. Don't get me wrong here. But, we've given people other chances on this board, and I don't know the man personally. I did check into him, talked to Lee about it, I talked to the assistant to Lee and whatever. We've approved him once, now we're digging up some old history, and that makes him a bad guy. You know, Lee, I'd wish you come up and say a few words because you are the man that works with them and
State your name and address for the record, please, Lee.
Lee Annenson, you want my residence or you want Moose Lodge?
Moose Lodge.
Moose Lodge, 846 Morris Avenue, Green Bay, Moose Lodge 801. I'm the administrator. I'm responsible for the employees. And Jeff has worked for us for, like you said, 18 months, I believe it is. He's trustworthy. I trust him. The people like him. He's a good employee. That in itself, the trust and the fact that it's hard to find people you can trust. I don't know what to say. I've spoken to Jeff, and he says that, yes, there's a guy in Pennsylvania with a different spelling of his name, and he apparently can't get the verification from the officials there as far as proving that he's not that person. As far as the rest of it, he has admitted that he admits that these other violations exist, but he's trying to come up from underneath this other stigma that he's somebody he's not. So I respectfully request you to at least reconsider your decision. He's a good member of our community. He's a hard worker, and I think that he should get his license. And I'm not just speaking because I'm the administrator and I need my employees. I'm speaking because I believe the man needs this chance too.
Okay. Any questions for Lee?
Lee, that's just a part-time job most people have as far as bartending.
Yes. Yeah.
And you haven't had any problems. Does anybody drink behind the bar when they're bartending?
They're not supposed to know. If I know of it, I'll speak to them and stop it right there, but
It hasn't been a no
the
problem.
policy is no drinking behind the bar.
Okay.
I'll move to close the floor if there's no other questions.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The floor is closed. I guess for me, that 1991 conviction is so long ago. I mean, I think about how old I was 32 years ago. That's a long time ago. So.
You're not that old, Mary.
I know. I was told I was 31.
And also the 2009, one of my things that I'm thinking going forward, Chief, is, okay, every year that's going to come up.
That's what I was just going to say.
Well, no, for him, I mean, if we're talking about him, what we normally do is, Chris will send me the information, and if you guys grant him, then I won't go back and deny it next year.
Okay,
Right.
based on those other.
Based on what we're doing here tonight.
New,
Right.
you'll deny
Correct.
based on that.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I think I'm willing to discount the 1991 conviction because it's so old. And in light of his supervisor's testimony, I would move to approve his license tonight. So
I would second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the operator's license for Jeffrey J. Woulf. Is there any further discussion?
Under discussion, I would ask that maybe we provide more guidance for the chief on the length of looking back, because we're saying his is 32 years, and we're like, well, we're going to discount that. So if the chief,
I think it's his job to bring all the information forward and for us to decide that. You know, that's where I'm putting that. It's good that he does that.
One thing that we can do is, and we can work through committee, is remember with regards to approval of an operator's license, it goes through the background check.
Yep.
If the background check comes back clear, the board has amended its ordinances to allow the clerk to just issue the license. So the threshold to get approved is pretty steep. And then ultimately, it's the board's discretion on the initial issuance of that license based on that standard. So what we could look at is kind of having a structured tier of, okay, here's a really steep standard so that you have the ability to then weigh your decision-making on those applicants on that steep level, but then also establish criteria for yourselves. So when you're making the approval, you're doing it in a non-discriminatory manner.
Yeah, got to be consistent.
And I appreciate the kind words, Gary, as well, but just understand, this is not personal for me at any level. I'm just following the guidelines, and as you said, we're bringing it forward, and they can plead their case. So I appreciate it, but again, it's certainly not personal for me.
No, I appreciate that, Chief. All right.
Just a minute. Yeah, sure.
So, and the chief realizes that you can, grant this tonight, but tomorrow he could go to Anduzzi's and work.
Right.
That's one of the things
Well,
that
and,
people.
and we're putting honesty, we're granting him that honesty, If he screws up, he's done. That's simple. He ain't coming back here no more, because we ain't gonna give him no second chance after we're already giving him a second chance.
So, Chief, just to clarify with you, so let's say we approve it tonight, and then you said that if it came through next year, you would not deny it based on this, but let's say he gets another DWI.
Oh, it'll be a denial, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and you would look at, obviously, anything new that.
Anything that's substantially related to selling his license, alcohol, drugs, whatever, I'll certainly deny it based on that. Yeah. Like I said, well, I'll get a note on the next application next year that say, it's just a reminder that this was approved at Village Board, and then I'll just approve it as long as, like I said, there's nothing new.
It's the same.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the operator's license for Jeffrey J. Woulf. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 11E, action on appeal of denied operator's license, Cameron Anderson. Chief.
Okay, this is another one that was denied at committee level, 3-1 was a denial. And Mr. Anderson will certainly talk to you about his record, I'm assuming. It is very lengthy, and he even put some of that information on there. So, but there's a lot of things that were left out as well as part of my denial, to include some of the very serious crimes. His most recent OWI was 2018, which he, admitted to at the committee level as well. So I'll let him speak to you, but those were the substantial reasons for my denial.
Okay,
Motion to open the floor.
Second.
motion and a second to open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The floor is open. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Name is Cameron Anderson. I reside at 2466 Kimberly Street, Ashwaubomay.
Okay, and would you like to talk about your appeal?
Yes, like the chief say, I do have a criminal record. A lot of them go back 40 years back. Most recent one was my OWI, but all those cases, all those law-breaking crimes that I did, I paid my price for them. I grew up without parents, so I had no guidance. The streets was my guidance. That's how I learned. So yes, I committed a lot of crime, done a lot of things to survive. I'm a dad now. I've been a dad for quite some time, and I did all that for my kids so they wouldn't have to do it. I know about it. They don't know about it. So, I don't regret nothing I did because I can't go back and change it. But what I can do, I change the way I live now and how I raise my boys up now. I'm very proud of what I did. Having very little education, I paid my dues for the crime I did, and I try to be that light for other people now, I get along with people. I haven't been in trouble since my drunk driving, you know, so yeah, you know, I come a long way. You know, I'm nowhere where I used to be, and that's for sure. I come a long way. And yes, I would like to be granted the license to keep me working. I do have one 14-year-old at home who's still in school, who think he's the dad, but you know, I'm enjoying this time. And to let him see me get up and go bust my tail to support him, you know, that's a smile on my face for him. Once again, a lot of these cases I did been over 40 years ago, you know, and, you know,
Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys for taking this time out.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Anderson?
On the application here, what are the most recent ones? Because these are some dates not on here, and I'm not following this very well whatsoever. What were, let's say, the last two severe ones on your file there? Because there's quite a list of them.
Well, 07,
I'm asking the chief.
Yeah. Chief, what do you have?
So I have the 2018 OWI. I have 2010 child abuse causing reckless harm, which is a felony. 07 domestic DC battery, and 04 aggravated battery with great bodily harm, which is a felony. And it continues to go on from there as well. So.
All right, thank you. That was enough.
Okay.
All right, I'll move to close the floor if there's no other questions.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, discussion. Thank you, Cameron.
Yes,
Chief, can you tell me how many DWIs he had? Is it like 3 or 4?
Maybe he has 2.
2?
Yeah.
18,
18 and
10.
9. Oh, let me look.
10 and 7?
I have to look here. Got to pull up his packet. Hold on. It's going to take me a minute.
Okay.
I have 2 in 93 and 18.
In 93?
Yep.
2093.
1993 and 2018.
2018, all right.
But then he also has the 2 felonies, correct?
Well, there's many more than that.
Chris, can Mr. Anderson still work at the gas station without the liquor license?
He can, but he did explain to me that, you know, they want to move his schedule a little bit to make it fair to the other employees to have weekends off, but he could work the hours that they cannot sell.
Okay. Could he work with another employee there that has a license and sell, or he cannot at all if another employee has license?
He could.
Okay.
He could.
So the only thing he could not do is work alone and sell alcohol?
Correct.
Or liquor?
Correct. But again, like I stated before, you know, when people apply, they say, oh, I'm working here, but the next day they can go somewhere else.
Correct.
I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? I think I saw too, though, that 07 was a DWI also.
Yes, I saw that too.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll have to go back and look again, but on our DOT record, it showed 2, so.
Yeah, 07, 2018, and then,
There's one in Appleton, right?
yeah.
There's no date for that one, but.
I think we looked at all those dates he had with the two DWIs. That's the biggest reason we denied it at Public Works and Protection.
Correct.
So, I don't know. I guess I'm going to make a motion with the issues that we have here, one being within the 5-year period. That makes a difference of DWI. I'm going to move to deny.
Do we have a second?
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the appeal for Cameron Anderson for operator's license. Any more discussion?
I think the only thing I would suggest is, in this situation, especially with your record, you know, there are many of job opportunities out there. I get it. I get that. I totally get that.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a blessed day, okay? Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second to deny the appeal. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 11F, discussion and action on design planning of new Village of Ashwaubenon Mini Park. Rex.
All right, thank you, Mary. This particular project was in our core plan for a couple of years now. It was put in once the influx of housing started to happen in the whole entertainment district here. The village owns a parcel of land behind the Element, right off the corner of Element Way. I think you've got a picture of it in your packet, or a map of it anyway. With the density of housing that's going in, just with the Element and the two Bohemian Park buildings, there's over 400 units that are built, currently built, or will soon be. There's already housing in that area. There are a number of apartments and homes in that area already as well. So it's becoming a fairly high density area, and I figure it's going to continue to get that way, even more dense. With that, it's time, I think, to bring that corporate project forward, and it's time to put in a mini park to try and relieve some of that higher density, so there's some green space for all those residents to go to. So what you have before you is a proposal from Rettler and Associates to work with the village, to work with the park board, and then ultimately the village board to go through the design process for the piece of property that the village owns for the purpose of a mini park. Now, a mini park, through old NRPA, or National Recreation Park Association standards, is between 0.25 and 0.5 acres. The parcel that the village owns is 0.43 acres, I believe. So that's why we're calling it a mini park, and certainly its name would be decided at a future board meeting. But I just wanted to have some discussion and see what everyone thought on starting the process of developing some green space in the entertainment district here, so that the residents have some green space to go to.
What's your thoughts, Rex, as to what you'd put in there? I get Rettler's going to come up, but what's your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I have my thoughts, but really, I want to talk with the park board and obviously get feedback from everyone here during this process. And we have Chase Rettler. He's on Zoom from Stevens Point with us right now, and he can certainly help answer questions as well. There's a couple things. Number one, the Element has some amenities put onto their property, or it's shown that will be happening. So I think what needs to be done during this whole vetting process is find out what amenities the Element is going to be putting in, what amenities, if any, Bohemian Park has potentially planned, and then kind of work with Rettler and figure out what do we want to put in. Right now a lot of these apartments, they're younger professionals, or potentially they're seniors. So people may or may not say, hey, we don't need a playground, because I've had that said before. But by the same token, there's young professionals have kids, and a lot of them may or may not be moving out once they initially have those kids. In addition, if they're seniors, you're going to have grandkids visiting. The element, I'm not sure about Bohemian Park, but the element allows pets. So I don't know if you've noticed, I've noticed a lot of people walking their dogs up and down Holmgren Way, in the last couple of years, and I guess it didn't click. It's like, where are these people coming from with all their pets? Well, right across the street at the Element Way. So, you're talking little things like a doggy pot station, someplace where they can walk their dog to, or anything like that. So it could be a small playground area. It could be green space, picnic tables, just a rest spot. Basically someplace with grass. I don't think we need a big playground, but probably something small. Maybe a drinking fountain. I know we've talked as part of the whole village's, envisioning plan of having some public art. It may be an opportunity to have a piece of public art put in, or one of our first pieces, because we wouldn't have to worry about it being put on private land, because it would be a public site. So, Jay, it could be anything. I'm just throwing out different ideas, but I think that all needs to be vetted still.
Fair enough.
One of the things I want to say with the Element Bohemian Park, whatever amenities they've got planned in, I'm fairly certain that they're trying to keep those amenities specifically for the residents of their own complex.
Right.
You know what I mean? So just because they've got something going in, or it doesn't mean like the community as a whole is, I don't want to say welcome, but encouraged to come and use it.
Right.
Whereas this park would be for anybody in any complex or any business in that particular area.
Rex, if I remember Bohemian, when they came in front of us, their amenities included inviting the public to their property when they're all said and done. Mm-hmm. So, it's hard to say, is that going to happen when it's done, I guess. You're estimating that around 400 people right now. There's 1, 2, 3 buildings. Actually, there's 4 buildings sitting there right now that are not occupied. Some of them are not built yet, but there's potential to have more than the 400.
Right. I think when it's all said and done, it'll be that particular park. A mini park serves, again, per the old NRPA standards, serves a population of over 1,000 people. And the way that's figured out with just Bohemian Park and the Element, you've got a number of apartments on the south side of Marvell that are in full use and fully occupied, and you've got a lot of things being built. I think it will be well over 1,000 people within a couple of years that park will be serving.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is Van Park being used more because of the population increasing in this area here? Do you have any feedback on that?
I think it's going to be. I think in the green sheet I mentioned, we also have some plans for Mike Van. Basically they're bubble plans, but we're looking at eventually, once the housing on Mike McCarthy Way develops a little bit more, and that whole roadway develops, we're looking at putting in a sidewalk or a walkway on Borvan to get from the apartments into Mike Van Park as well for that particular area. And then, because I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, but I believe that's more of a senior citizen complex, or more for some of them is specifically for seniors. So we're looking at putting a shelter and maybe some amenities within the park, exercise stations or something, potentially, again, to be vetted in the future. But we're looking at increasing the amenities in Mike Van. And Mike Van's got a little bit of room to expand some of those amenities as well.
It's a nice size park for that area. Mm-hmm.
Rex, when you say 400 units, you're not saying necessarily 400 people, right? Because that's you're saying.
That's 400 units. So there's 2 bedroom, there's 3 bedroom, and there could be multiple people, married couples. Some of them could have kids already. So, what is the number at right now? I'm guessing probably if they're at near capacity, it'll be somewhere around 600 or 700 people.
And the service area goes across Oneida into some of the single-family homes then, correct?
It touches on the fringe of the homes on the west, on the west side of Oneida, correct?
One of the things, and maybe Chase can answer it, but I know the site analysis looks at potential pedestrian circulation linkages. What would that involve, Chase? Because obviously this area is very densely populated now with all the apartments that we have. And just to make sure people can safely get there, I know we have a lot of sidewalks already in Element Way, you just got the sidewalks put on. But what would you actually look at with that, Chase, as you're looking at the park design?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, just based on the overall size of the parcel, looking at regional options, it's going to be pretty minimal, but likely tying in traditionally with the existing sidewalk, as well as working with the village if there are future traditional sidewalk connections that can be used.
Well, what I see this in, it's an area that's, like you pointed out, there's a lot of people moving into that area. I think this would be a great spot to do this. It's very minimal. It's coming out of park development funds. So I would recommend that we move forward with creating, at least looking at the design and the planning of a mini park.
Second.
In the Element Way area. I don't know how you want to state where it is, but.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend design and planning of Village of Ashwaubon's mini park in the Element Way area. Any further discussion?
I just think it's a great idea. We need something there, and with the density that's occurring in that area, I'm glad that the village kept that parcel so that it could be used in this manner. So I'm all for it.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chase.
11G, action on National Night Out 2023. Joe.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. So this particular item is being brought forward at a request of members of the board. Recently, Public Safety was looking at possibly changing how it conducts National Night Out on an annual basis starting in 2023 by essentially going from what has been traditionally in Ashwaubenon kind of a neighborhood gathering event to kind of more of a regionalized event at 3 different locations throughout the village. So at the request of members of the board, it was asked that Chief bring forward this item for discussion and deliberation at the board level to determine if the recommendation from Public Safety to kind of go to this more regionalized approach versus going to the traditional neighborhood type events is appropriate. So with that, I guess I'll have Chief maybe kind of describe what his plan is from public safety standpoint and some of the challenges that maybe public safety has faced in the past as it relates to resources and staffing to the neighborhood events. But then ultimately, this is really a community-wide event. One that has a strong tradition that the board has actively participated in directly in the past. So want to get your feedback and direction as well before the event comes up in August. So with that, Chief.
Thank you. So last year was the first year that I was able to make it out to all, I think, 13 locations. And as I was going through the locations and talking to some of the hosts there, there was a lot of these neighborhood block parties, if you will, that were very sparsely attended. And so we have to move our resources, obviously, in a short amount of time to get to all these places. So as I discussed previously, a lot of the hosts were kind of ambivalent of whether they wanted to do it again. And so my vision is to hold 3 different locations initially throughout the village at 3 different parks to utilize our resources better at these 3 locations so we can stay there for longer periods of time, interact with folks for longer periods of time, and make sure that people feel welcomed to come to these locations. my thought and in talking with others is that with these smaller block parties, if you will, it doesn't really expand too much beyond that general area of where those parties are. That, you know, people from 3 or 4 blocks away don't necessarily come to the small block parties. So making it a more generalized location, more comfortable to people to come, seemed to make sense to me and to everyone else that I spoke to within public safety. So we got together, we talked about it, and we came up with the 3 locations that we sent out. And again, to allow a little more interaction, especially for us, and to consolidate our resources at these locations. You know, traditionally, we've done things different here in Ashwaubenon with these several locations. National Night Out usually in many communities is held at one location. And kind of like, I don't know if you guys, anybody came to our open house, that's generally what a National Night Out looks like. People come here, we have resources that we bring in from other agencies, and we do all that fun stuff. So knowing that we have a tradition here, I said, you know, let's talk about doing it at 3 different parks and make through it. So that was my thinking. That was our thinking in public safety. We thought that we should give this a try, maybe for a couple years and see if that works out. And if it doesn't, we can always go back and do the block parties again. So that was our train of thought. I know, again, as Joel mentioned, there's, you know, at least one person on the board that hosts block parties themselves and was concerned about it. So I'll let you guys ask any questions or speak to those points as well.
Okay.
All right. If anybody pulled up anything about a complete guide for National Night Out, it's a cooperation between the neighborhoods and the safety departments. They kind of bounce back and forth. I'm going to go along with the neighborhoods a little bit more because those are the most important people that you have in your neighborhood. They may not know you very well, but I'll tell you what, they know when the garage door should go up and when it comes down. They follow, you know, and it's easy to follow people's routines. But I'm still a believer in having the neighborhood groups, and the safety department does a great job coming around. The people that I've seen coming around with the fire trucks and whatever are all the volunteer fire department fire people, is what I've noticed. I've had all 3 of them in front of my house one year because of a little problem I had at my residence, and thank God for them, they saved us. But anyway, to make a long story short, I really like the system we have right now. I've talked to some of the neighbors. We still are going to have a party. We're still going to have it, not if, wherever this goes, our party isn't going to be on the same night if the people, or you people want to go along with what the chief is asking for. We're going to follow a week later, but we definitely are going to have one. The neighborhoods are changing, as we know, and it's hard to get your neighbors. Nobody sits out in the front porch anymore like they used to years ago. You know, it's funny, people are building porches and little patios to sit in front of the house, which some of our neighbors do. But as far as getting to know your neighbors, the best way is to have a party. And I think we, as you know, Chief, you've been at ours already, we do a pretty good job in making sure the neighbors know who we all are. It's been safe, it's been productive in knowing each other. Cars go by, we wave at each other. I think it's a very friendly neighborhood that we created by this. So,
and I would agree with that, Gary, and I just want you to know that I respect you and your decisions and what you do. That was a joke. You're supposed to laugh at that.
Say, I got it.
Okay, just a minute.
But to that point, there are a lot of neighborhoods that do have block parties throughout the year for those very same reasons. And they do invite us to attend, and we actually go to those as much as we can. So that opportunity still exists. You know, whether we do this one way or the other, those opportunities still exist. I would invite you to do that, and we will make sure that we can attend as many as I can. So I just wanted to clarify that.
What if we, like maybe as a compromise to ease the transition from the old to the new way, what if you, like the people who don't want to do it anymore, maybe pick a park in that area to do one, And the people who still want to do it and host their party, let them still host it this year. So you'll have maybe 2 parks and a few places to go, or I don't know, maybe 1 park and a bunch of homes to go to.
Yeah, I mean, Sand Acres, they've been doing the park for many, many years, and it's huge. It's really big there. So I'm not sure. I guess we'd have to figure out the logistics on how to do that exactly.
True, because it might not work out that the people who don't want to host anymore aren't all in the same area. But
Right.
I'm just trying to brainstorm a way that maybe was a compromise so that it's not just old way, new way, you know?
Yeah, I know change is hard. I get it. But we can certainly, again, we want to make sure as a public safety agency that we're still reaching out to people, that we still want to make it inviting. We want to be part of the community with this event as well. But as I've gone through these, if I can spend 10 or 15 minutes at each location and doing it now, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's all I get if I want to hit them all. I mean, I guess I could, divide them up. But again, a lot of these parties that I went to were really, really small. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to consolidate some of our resources, to make it more inviting for others as well. But again, knowing, as Gary mentioned, that these neighborhoods can still have the block parties and we can still attend, just maybe not on that night.
Our neighborhood's like yours, Gary. We have a big event over there, and we have a lot of people that come. So It's been very popular. So I would kind of hate to see that go away. Also, these 3 parks are not close at all to my neighborhood. I mean, if they, Waterford Park is much closer, and maybe so your neck of the woods too, but, and Sand Acres is huge already. I mean, to send my whole neighborhood down to Sand Acres is not going to work.
And that was a struggle for us when we were looking at it. We were trying to find locations, with the existing parks that would encompass the entire village, and that was, that was difficult.
Yeah, I mean, Sand Acres has a great program going on down there, but I think to add more people to that, the parking's bad there already. It's hard to, so I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. I think I agree with Gary. It's a really nice neighborhood thing, brings people out. But I see your point as well. I mean, you only have so much resources, and how do we consolidate? And maybe it's worth sending out to all the people that hosted last year and just saying, this is what we're thinking about. Maybe some of those really small ones you went to, they've just been doing it because they've been doing it, but no one's really coming, so they'd be like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. So you may cut some back that way. And kind of like Kelly said, see what you get back, and if people want to do it, and say you're looking at consolidating more.
Yeah, maybe we try and look at it and say maybe, to kind of ease it, maybe we say there's 4 or 5 parks. But again, that's going to limit the resources and where we're going to be and for how long.
Yeah.
I guess I would reach out to the people, who they've been in the past, and just find out how interested are they to continue.
And I did that personally. When I was there last year, I did that personally, and I asked them. So,
but I think if we could just reach out to them now and say, hey, how interested are you to continue this? Here's something we're considering.
Right.
And moving,
I'm happy to
call out the park in their area, see what they have to say. If they say, oh, yeah, no, I'd rather do something like that. It might allow them, who's maybe somebody who, let's say, isn't as active in their neighborhood any longer.
Yeah.
It might be, it gives them a way to bow out, and it would make, your resource problem an issue. But the ones that want to do it, you need to keep doing it. I mean, when you can keep your neighborhood together, we try in our neighborhood all the time to do that. And it makes a big difference.
I'm happy to do what the board wants to do. This is something that I think that we could make better, in my opinion. But there are still some locations that do a really nice job now. So I understand that as well. So, if you want me to draft a letter to the current hosts, we've already done that, but I can draft another letter giving them an option to say, okay, if we have it here, would you support that?
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I
Just
think
to get
that's
some
a good
feedback.
idea. And you say, hey, Gary, you would just say no, or we'd like to just leave it the way it is.
I'll need to send one to Gary. I already know his opinions.
Yeah, I've got one already, and I know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, I would do it that way, and that also might weed out somebody who just really doesn't want to do it, and that's why there's really nobody that attends it, because they don't really
Publicize it.
push it, don't,
I actually reached out to the people that hosted last year. The ones I was able to get a hold of, it was kind of a mixed bag. I guess my thing is, if people want to host it, how do we host that and then have the public safety show up?
Right.
That would, so what I guess where I want to go with this is, maybe this is a bigger discussion as to whether or not we change it this year.
That's what I would say.
Well,
Maybe wait a year.
My situation is I'm not going to have the party on the same day the National Night Out is, because I don't want to interrupt what the police, the safety department is doing. My neighbors, like, which park is closer? Well, I'm not going there, that's too far away. Another question I have, Chief, what kind of beverage and food are you going to have to draw the people? Are you paying attention?
I was distracted.
I'm distracting him. So since it sounds like we're somewhat freewheeling here a little bit, maybe I could offer a suggestion. It sounds like the board is interested in maintaining that neighborhood environment that has been traditional in the past. Go with that, since this is somewhat of a larger change and relatively in quick order from when National Night Out is. Chief, obviously, and the department have an interest in maybe trying and giving a test run on these kind of more regional locations. So whether or not we have the resources, that's a conversation that Chief and the department and I can have, but allowing them to go through and have the regional events like had been proposed at Smith, Fort Howard, and at Sand Acres. We have a pretty good regional cross-section, not every neighborhood, but we're kind of hitting those main regional areas within the community at those 3 locations. And then based on the availability of officers, we could have an officer assigned to a third of each of the neighborhood locations. So you wouldn't see what you traditionally do at the neighborhood events as far as a fire truck every time and canine officer every time. The evidence tech coming out at every location. You wouldn't have the full gamut of experience because they'll be dedicated to the regional locations, but an officer could be present that could then visit and spend a little bit more time at each location one-on-one with the neighbors, because then instead of having all 13 spots to stop at, they would have maybe 4 or 5. And we would have to work that out. Again, I'm just freewheeling here since we're having this kind of general open discussion, but that could be an option to try both and continue with that. And then if we get a substantial turnout at the regional locations, well, then you know that those are being successful.
I think you're going to struggle this year getting attendance, because if you make this change with where we're at right now, I think you're better off staying with the regional ones and then discuss it at the regional ones about moving to that. I'm just afraid of the time frame.
Well, the only thing is, though, Jay,
I'm afraid your guys are going to end up in the park, Chief, and there ain't going to be anybody there.
Yeah, what's going to happen is if we keep them as it is 13 sites, then there's probably going to be very few people that are actually going to come to the parks because they're at the sites. So there may be some, that come to them more comfortable, but
that would give you an opportunity to get it into.
Well, I wanted to jump in because there were some of the public safety staff had approached us much earlier in the spring. In fact, that might have even be winter, of whether we'd wanted to partner on some of this stuff. And so what we currently do, I think most of you know, we have a series of evenings called Neighborhood Nights. Yep. Fort Howard, Smith, Waterford, Sand Acres. The Sand Acres ones happens to be on the same night as National Night Out. So it's a good partnership that way. So I think maybe what we're looking at doing, or what was suggested, was not having them all on the same nights and having that special night with public safety as part of the neighborhood night. So we already have people going to the park. Gary, we serve hot dogs and lemonade at every one of those events.
Other beverages?
So there's your food. And then we also have a bounce house. We have the Parkies play neighborhood games with all the kids and the families that show up. And then we have the movie in the park to wind the evening up. So I think maybe, and I don't want to speak for the chief, but maybe what he's thinking of is trying to partner with Park and Rec that already does that event. We already have people in the park, and now all of a sudden the public safety shows up on individual nights, which doesn't put a big strain on the services, at least for those regional sites. And they add to the, I guess, atmosphere as well as the communication to the residents that are there.
Rex, I know Sand Acres is a big park for you. The other three parks that you have these nights out, how well are they attended, in your opinion? Could it be better?
Sure, it can always be better. I mean, we have, between Fort Howard, Smith is pretty good. Fort Howard gets maybe 100, 125 people coming and going throughout. So it's a decent number, but I can only imagine, the bigger you make something, the more pop that it has to have the interest of people showing up to it. So
yeah, and with public safety there, maybe we'll attract more people as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still going to be doing our thing. Maybe we'll need to buy a couple extra hot dogs or, an extra couple gallons of lemonade, but we're still going to do our thing. It's not going to be a lot of additional impact on Park and Rec to partner with public safety on doing this. So it probably would enhance the event if that's the direction that we wind up going. So.
Well, at least you got hot dogs and water. I mean.
Lemonade.
Oh, and lemonade. Oh.
I like that idea. So we could add public safety to the night at the park or whatever it's called for
Movie in the park.
Night out, neighborhood night out.
Neighborhood night out, and then just keep the national night out at the homes for this year.
Yeah. And then
see
next
how
year
it goes.
transition and maybe combine forces.
I guess what's the purpose of the national night out? Is it to get officers into the neighborhoods, or
community.
is it?
Yeah, it's basically to interact, have public safety, interact with the community, take time out to spend with positive interactions instead of us going out there and maybe having negative interactions with them. And so it's really just a get to know each other, talk about what we do and how we help and what we can do for others.
You get to know your neighbor.
So that kind of feels to me like more like go to the actual neighborhood, but you could argue that you can get to know them at a park too.
Not if they all don't go. I mean, I get everybody from our block. I should say 90%, some of the others don't come, but even Mary's dad comes up at 92 years old.
So what if we left it the way it is this year? And then maybe Park and Rec and Public Safety can work and see what we come up with for next year and maybe combine. And Brian, I don't know if you wouldn't want to combine because it doesn't put as much limelight on the National Night Out component of it. Does that bother
No,
you?
that doesn't matter. And as a matter of fact, there are some communities that don't even do it on National Night Out. They do their own thing, their own time. So, the main purpose here obviously is to interact with your community with public safety. So, if you want to keep it the way it is this year, we can certainly do that. If we want to look to, work next year with Park and Rec and kind of have those regional areas and kind of do it that way, I'm happy to do that too. I'm really looking to enhance the interaction because I think there are locations that there's really not much there right now. So, and there are some that are still good.
What's the date for this year?
Yeah.
August
August, that first Thursday?
August 1st.
August 1st.
Forget.
Do we have it in here?
August 1st.
It's not in your memo.
Not in here, but it's August 1st. Huh?
August 1st.
There you go.
So just as a point of reference, just with our special events for our neighborhood nights, ours start, I want to say in mid-July. I want to say it's July 13th. No, July 11th, excuse me. Fort Howard on July 11th, Smith on the 18th, Waterford on the 25th. These are all Tuesday nights. And then following up with Sand Acres the first week in August. So those are ours. So, I mean, if public safety would be interested, they would just kind of have to spread it out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that way, and then we can keep the Sand Acres on National Night Out itself. So I think that's a great solution. But again, I'll leave it up to the board on how you want to do that.
So what are we doing? This year, we're leaving it the same?
Leaving it the same with the public safety making an appearance at one of the parks? Or are they going to do the 3 parks?
No, I think we're just going to leave it the same. We'll try to, we'll kind of divide it up and divide and conquer like we did last year. And then next year, we'll look at combining it with Park and Rec.
Yeah, I would suggest that just because of the time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to say we got the best thing going the way we're doing it, but I do think that the chief should try something too, to see how it's going to work. I've been to one of Rex's park planning committees. I think I've been to every park when we were having those meetings. Some parks had a few people, and some, I remember, nobody came. But having your entertainment like you're having it, I know that draws people. So, I think he does a good job at doing that. Keep that up and get the safety department involved in it. See what happens.
Okay, just for the record, I know this is information discussion only. We're leaving it the way it is this year, and then we're going to next year have public safety team with the movie in the park at the 4 different parks.
And still allow the individual neighborhoods, like Chief said,
Next
still
year.
more than willing to come.
Next year.
Yeah.
Correct, next year.
But you're more than willing to have your block parties, and we'll try, what we'll do is we'll try and send someone, to those as we can, so.
Chief, how many invitations do you get during the year to come to a block party? I know some people have it all different times, but does it vary?
Yeah, I'd say half dozen to a dozen.
Oh, that many? Oh, that's better than I thought. Okay, let it go.
Okay,
Okay, so I can get the letter out then.
there you go. Okay. Any more discussion on this?
Except for you, Gary, I'm not sending one to you.
You gonna come and see me?
Okay.
Oh, you're busy already.
Thank you. 11H, review and action regarding the award of the 2023 Bituminous Planning and Paving Contract.
Planning and paving?
No.
All right, this is our annual resurfacing contract that we, review every year. A little background, this is all based on road condition. So every 2 years, Public Works staff goes out and reviews the streets, see what kind of condition they are, give them a rating from 10 being a brand new road to 1 being basically a gravel or an asphalt road turned to gravel. Most of our roads, I say an average, we're around like a 6 overall. But the roads that we include on our list each year are the 4s. So there's, quite a few bumps and potholes and whatnot that we have to, take care of each year. So this year, as you might have noticed, the dollar amount is higher than we've done in the past years. I know we've been trying to bump it up, make a conscious effort each budget season to bump up that number. And, through some other funding mechanisms being TIF dollars, we've brought together a pretty good list. There's 32 roads on this list. And talking with Greg, Finance, and Joel, we're looking to bring forward, 1.9 million was the bid. As you see the list, there's 32 roads. There's 3 different funding mechanisms: TIF 3, TIF 5, the general fund. And just want to bring it forward for discussion if there's any questions. But based on available funding, we believe we can take care of this contract.
Now, Steve, some of these roads that were a number 6, we're doing, I'm going to say early, because they're in the TIF, right? And then that gets paid for with TIF.
So,
correct?
Yeah, the list does not include any 6 scored
Oh, it doesn't?
roadways, no.
No.
Yeah, there's maybe a couple 5s in there, but most of them are 4s.
Okay.
And the ones that are starred on here then are actually be pulverized and then relayed after?
Yep, so a couple of these, there's like a handful of them that are so bad condition that we can't just mill them and resurface them. We have to do full depth pulverizing, so we did like Babcock Road as an example, if you know, that was done last year, where they just go in there and they go full depth, you turn it basically into gravel, then they reconstruct it so that it lasts longer. Just, you know, it was a road that, these roads are too far gone, they have to get reconstructed.
So in other words, you're bringing it back down to the original gravel and then coming back up with new asphalt on that, is what you're saying?
That is correct, Gary.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to thank you for bringing some in towards 3 and 4 this year. You're the boy.
You're welcome. All right.
Well, this is something that absolutely has to continue to be done, so.
Yes.
I move to approve the awarding of the 2023 Bituminous planning and paving contract, and I believe it was to Northeast, correct?
Correct, yep, Northeast Asphalt.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to award the Bituminous planning and paving contract to Northeast Asphalt in the amount of $1,974,782.75. Any further discussion?
One question. Does anybody remember the cost we did last year, the total cost?
I believe the bid was just shy of 900,000. I think it was like 875 maybe.
Okay, all right, I'm not going to argue that. I know we're up from last year, and that's what I want to thank everybody for. I know costs have gone up, but I think you're doing a few more roads out of that cost too, so.
That is correct.
You know, we get a lot of discussion on roads in this village, and I'll tell you what, we are doing very, very well with them compared to some other communities. So thank you for that.
I know we talked about that last year when the bids came in really high, and then we put some more money towards it. I don't remember where the heck we got it from, but and we talked about expanding our budget this year to be able to do more roads so we could keep up. So it's good to see, and you know, like Gary said, it needs to be done. So
we, as mentioned, we were attempting to continue to ramp up this program because we are a few years behind. And last year, the way bid prices came in, the price per ton was exceptionally high. In fact, we rejected a number of bids last year on other paving projects because of that high price point. Now that price per ton has come down this year. And so we do have that funding available to accommodate a larger scope of projects that we didn't have last year.
are you gonna be able to get this all done this year yet? It's a lot of roads.
Yeah, we have a couple of different deadlines for the contractor. You know, some of these roads, you notice, are up in the Titletown area. We're going to try to obviously knock those out before mid-August, and then there's a September 15th, I think, deadline for all of it. So.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Steve, can you get Northeast to finish 172 first, please?
Good luck.
11I, action on Argonne Park Trail / Cabela's Phragmites proposal. Rex.
All right, this is a two-part discussion, really. That's two projects, really, that are lumped into one just because of the proximity and the nature of the project. So the first part, this has been to the village board before, about a year ago or so. And that is the trail on the backside of Argonne, which would be a crusher dust trail until it enters the woods. And that's what the holdup on the whole thing was the Packers, were the Packers going to allow us to put a boardwalk type trail similar to what we did over at Sherwood Forest into the woods behind Cabela's. I believe Valley View is the dividing line, so probably 80% of that woods is actually on the Packers' property, which Cabela's is leasing for their store. But Mary was able to meet with the Packers. The Packers kind of have given their blessing that they thought the trail was a good idea. just for the people that are in the general Titletown area, as well as the homeowners, a place for them to walk their pets, walk for exercise, that type of thing. So what the first part of the proposal is to have Stantec, and I got to say thanks to John and Chris for showing up tonight and sitting through all of our lovely village business. It's much appreciated. Probably did not think they'd be listening to all of this. But we're looking at approval for and they've got their proposal there to design the trail and get the stuff ready so we can be working on that in '24. It wouldn't be happening this year. It would be for '24. And it would be probably with park development funding, which is available to us. The second part of the proposal here is a little bit bigger and probably will create a little bit of discussion, and that is with the Phragmites, our lovely Phragmites problem, especially around that corner. So Highway 41 and Lombardi Avenue is the main entryway into the village. First thing you see as you get off of the freeway, no matter whether you're going south or north, is the Phragmites. I mean, it literally blocks the view of Cabela's and that whole area going in there. The majority of that Phragmites area is actually DOT right-of-way. There's probably 25% of that area that is Cabela's. But the majority of the Phragmites is on the DOT right-of-way. And it's not just right in front on Lombardi, it also goes down the side of their store towards and adjacent to Argonne Park. So discussion happened at staff a month or so ago on do we want to deal with this? We've talked about it before. Do we want to deal with this? How do we want to deal with this? And then, of course, the draft came into play. Now, do we want to do anything to really open things up and make it look good when people are coming off Highway 41 or I-41, which is the main entryway into the village, probably for the majority of people? What do we want to do? Do we want to make it look good, or do we want to leave it the way it is? Not that it looks bad, but it could look a lot better. So then the discussion was, Brian Rickard, our Public Works Director, contacted the DOT. DOT gave us some advice saying they don't have an issue with us treating the Phragmites. However, you can't just treat that one patch. You got to go all the way down the ditch line, along Argonne Park, because if you leave it, it's going to continue to, with the seeding and with the rhizomes that grow that's currently there. So the thought is, long story short, is to start a treatment program in that right-of-way area and on the Packers property. And the Packers still might be able to help financially with the cost of this whole thing. I need to throw this out there as well, still to be determined. But the thought is we've got 2 years to take care of it, which is actually, when you're dealing with Phragmites, a fairly quick timeline, because it takes a while to get rid of. It would need to be cut this year or sprayed, then cut down, and then it would need to be sprayed again, and then the whole process would need to start again in the spring of '24. And then hopefully we would be able to complete it in the fall of '24, which means it would be ready to go in spring of '25 for the draft and look a lot better. Discussion at the park board level, they approved moving it forward to village board by a 6-1 vote. I think some of the angst that people had during the discussion at the park board level is we're doing this. This is not property that's owned by the village. That's DOT right of way, and it's also partially owned by the Packers. So what is our responsibility for other people's land? Well, we know the DOT is not going to do anything. And we haven't officially heard word from the Packers yet if they're willing to chip in. Sounds like they might be willing to a little bit, but still to be determined in further discussions. But if we're to do this, if we're to get it knocked down, the ball needs to start rolling now, and that's where our discussion is right now. Again, John and Chris are here this evening from Stantec. to answer any questions about Phragmites itself, what their plan may be, and help us out with any questions that you guys may have.
Rex, does that all enhance the village?
Well, it's a matter of opinion on who you're talking to, Gary. I think the Phragmites looks. I think it looks horrible coming in, quite honestly. I mean, that's me personally, but
You answered the question.
It's awful.
Go for it.
I did have a meeting with the Packers, and, of course, their question was, how much is this going to cost? And I said, well, I don't know. That's why we have to spend this money to get an estimate of what it would cost to do it.
the work would need to be bid out. It's
Right.
going to be considered a public works project, which is kind of the reason for to get the ball rolling now is because it would need to be bid out, and we don't have anything prepared for that, so we would need to make that up and get that out, and hopefully we'd be able to get some of those treatments, or at least an initial treatment, done in the fall or late summer.
Yeah.
If the board so chose to do so.
If it's going to enhance the village, it's definitely going to enhance the sports store in the corner. Would they help at all finance something here? They are hidden behind that.
I have not contacted Cabela's. I know Mary has tried to contact them, I believe, a couple times in the past, but I will let Mary
Cabela's is going to be
take that question, Gary.
Cabela's going to be changing their name shortly, too.
Right, but the Packers, that would all, it has to be approved by the Packers because they own the land. And
yeah.
so they would also talk with Cabela's. I did try to call Cabela's a number of years ago about their Phragmites, but they never called me back. But, you have to remember too, Rex mentioned the draft, which you have a lot of people coming into your community, but also our state just invested $2.5 million in that visitor center, that you can't see that from Lombardi when you come off of Highway 41 either, so.
I was going to bring that up. What about Discover Green Bay? Where they stamped on this, I would think they'd be interested in getting rid of them as well.
Yeah, but
Hello?
anyway.
Like Rex said, at Park Board, we talked about this a bit. The concerns that were brought out there is the village doing work on private property, and our responsibility into the future. Do we have to keep taking care of the Phragmites? Because it could be a long process. And who's going to do that? Rex's staff is already stretched, and for us to be pulling them out of our public properties, which we're charged with taking care of, and moving them to private properties, is that appropriate? The other thing, I think I mentioned this to Patrick today, I think we have the cart before the horse on this. It's private property, and I think we need to get some kind of an agreement with the private property owner that indeed we can do this. I mean, the trail, if I understand it right, is also going to be partly in the private property. So we're going to have a boardwalk, the trail, and everything else in there. Plus, we're going to go in and take out all the Phragmites. I just think we have to have an agreement with them to allow us to do that and understand what our responsibilities are and what theirs are. I mean, I think it would be a good project, and I think enhancing it would be good, but I have a concern of the village paying for it all, and I also have a concern of not having an agreement with that private property owner before we go in and start doing this, and getting a contract with Santax that is requiring work on both private property and public property.
I would agree with everything you said, Tracy. The only thing is that nobody's going to commit to doing anything until we know what it's going to cost. Well, that's the big thing. So
I
we
would
can't
think we
draw
could-
up a contract until you know what it's going to cost.
Right.
I think that's what the intent of this particular proposal is to do, is to mark out, take a kind of a leadership role, if you will, because clearly Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, Green Bay Packers, whether it's Discover Green Bay, DOT for that matter, they haven't really taken that leadership role to address the Phragmite issue. That being a concern and an interest by the village to clean that up as a major corridor and entrance into the community. We felt it was important for us to at least take the leadership role and saying, what will this take to clean this up? What will be the the short and long-term cost implications of maintaining that corner. And really, ultimately, that's what the Phragmites proposal will do. With that, we're trying to be fully and wholly transparent on the matter. And I think Trustee Flukie is correct. We don't have a really good understanding of what the commitments are going to be from either the village or any of these other private partners. By getting this kind of plan in place, we can have more concrete, specific conversations with them to address those concerns. So kind of taking one step back to the Argonne Park proposal, we have to kind of formalize and identify where that trail is going to go. We would look to acquire an easement then or some type of property access right to maintain that trail. But we have to kind of plan that out. So the initial conversation we have with the Packers are you okay with this concept? Yes. Are you willing to support it financially? Possibly. We just, without a lot of detail, we really can't formally commit to anything concrete. But if you plan this out to the community's benefit, we would be more than willing to entertain a conversation. And that's basically the talking points the Packers had. Same goes on the Phragmites. Would you be interested in helping us and supporting this project? Yes. Do you think you could even, in fact, work with Cabela's, who is on Packer property as a long-term land lease deal, in helping them support it? Because I think, as some of you have mentioned, that this is a direct benefit to that business on the corner too, for visibility purposes. But we have to have that kind of plan in place. So I totally understand from an ideological standpoint and from a policy point of view, tough decision. You're entering into private property. You're entering into DOT jurisdictional right-of-way that you don't have an obligation to do. That's kind of the discussion at this point. Ideologically, are you comfortable entering into going onto private property, kind of planning something, and then dealing with that issue on DOT right-of-way, knowing that it could have a long-term commitment then from the village to maintain? So, but at this point, you don't have to necessarily commit to doing anything other than the planning part of it too, right? So we're just planning, we're just doing a design. At that point, when we get the results back from that planning effort, we as an organization could also in fact say, boy, it's not worth our effort.
So
right?
it's basically $19,600 out of TID 3 is what you're stating is what the cost of this would be.
To conduct the plan, that's what you have in the proposal, right?
So,
Well, the 7,300 is for removal oversight, correct? So that would be something above and beyond the planning?
Yeah, and I think John is here from Stantec that can certainly address it. So I don't know if you need to formally open the floor for John to speak specifically on the proposal, but he is available.
Make a motion.
Well, Greg, can I just say one thing before we open the floor? Greg, you're right. We have to take the leadership role in this. And I think that'll continue this on. So if we don't, nobody else will. It's for the benefit of us. And yeah, you're right. We do need a decent document to say all the things that we're trying to do there, so.
Well, and I think we should take a leadership role in it. But even with the planning end of it, sharing the cost of that, I mean, it's not a heck of a lot of money, I get that.
Well.
But there's got to be some to get some buy-in from the other ones.
Well, if I look at this right here, everybody's, I think, on board with the Argonne Trail. So that's $12,300 of this. So if that's the case, you've got the majority of it already going to the Argonne Trail just for the design. So
You're looking at $7,300 more.
correct.
Is that a lot of money?
I'd like to open the floor to ask a question.
And I'd second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So this
Motion carried.
$7,300, what are you going to do?
State your name and
is kind
address,
of the
please, for
question.
the record.
John Wader, Stantec, 157 Edmund Drive, Green Bay.
So what, repeat your question, please?
What are you planning on doing with the $7,300 that is proposed?
So that money is for the coordination and whatnot that Joel kind of talked about with all the different entities, as well as coming up with a very, very, very high-level conceptual design for not only the initial eradication of the Phragmites and the maintenance, up to 2 years, but also kind of what we're looking at, or what the village, the Packers, and all the other interested entities would want to see put in replacement of the Phragmites: shrubs, trees, flowers, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, and that would also, you would present to us a cost plan as what that would.
Correct.
Different options. Okay, and that's, yeah, another $7,300 just to plan that out, basically.
And to your point, there are tens of millions of dollars in the state of Wisconsin right now from the federal government as well as the DNR for Phragmites treatment, as well as long-term maintenance. I mean, we're writing proposals and doing work for 4, 5, 6 years of Phragmites herbicide treatment, continued mowing and maintenance. So from that, kind of down that corridor, there is a lot of money that we could identify as part of this proposal that the village could apply for, or village Packers, Cabelas, or whoever would kind of lead it for the maintenance that you're talking about.
Is there any funding for the planning portion of it, or is it mainly for the eradication of it?
It's mostly implementation.
So the 7,300 would be a plan also. It's not you out there overseeing when they're actually doing the removal.
Correct.
It's a plan saying this is what we would do, this is what would happen. Year 2, we would do this, 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 and this. So that's what that is. It's not actual
It'd be like
work.
a Phragmites plan as well as a restoration plan. So like a graphical representation of, we're going to plant these kind of shrubs here after all the Phragmites is gone, as well as the eradication and maintenance plan for the Phragmites. There's also buckthorn out there too, but that's a lot easier to get rid of than Phragmites.
So it's just the planning, and you ain't doing no cutting yet?
No. We'd love to do the cutting for you, but not at this point, no.
Well, it's interesting to know that we do have grants that are possibly, could apply to this, so that's good information there. I don't know, what do we need? Need some voting?
Need a motion to close the floor if we're
I
done
move
with
to
John?
close.
What do you want?
Move to close the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The floor is closed. Thank you, John. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we go ahead with the Argonne Park Trail and the Phragmites design for the total amount of money of $19,600, which will be coming from TID 3 funds.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Argonne Trail engineering and design cost of $12,300 and the Phragmites removal oversight for $7,300, and the money will come out of TID 3. Any further discussion?
Could I add maybe a friendly addition? That we would also ask staff to work with the Packers or the private property owner to implement this and to make sure that the legal is taken care of, that there's some cost share with it, so that as we go further, that some of that is taken care of.
I think until the plan's done, it's going to be very difficult to talk to anybody. So to me, we have to do this first step. Once we have that plan, then we can have all the other discussions.
Well, we got to present a plan to all these people anyway, so.
Right.
Yeah, so I get where you're coming from, but I don't think we can do step 2 what you're putting until we get step 1 done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does everybody understand the motion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, 11J, action on phase planning approval for Ashwaubomay River Trail extension. Rex.
Okay, so this would be phase 3. Let's go ahead 6 months. The bridge is open. The trail on Aldon Station is paved. We've got people coming in and out of Ashwaubomay using the trail. So this would be the next phase of the trail, jutting off from the trail that's going to be paved next week. It will loop around the eastern border of the park, along the Fox River, go behind Ashwaubomay Lake to the fence line, roughly, the southern border of the park, loop around the southern border of the park, and over to the boat launch area. So that would basically be the village's portion of the trail. So I call it phase 3. What was done years ago was phase 1. The bridge right now is phase 2, and so this is what I would consider phase 3 of this project. From that point on, just to give you a little bit more of a vision, Brown County would probably take over and work with New Water, the Fairgrounds Committee, as well as the City of De Pere, and put the trail into the Brown County Fairgrounds. In fact, we have a preliminary, because we're at this stage right now, we've already got a preliminary planning meeting with Brown County in about 3 weeks that's been scheduled. So they're kind of hot to get something going. But my recommendation to the village board is that if you want to see the trail continue, my recommendation is continue working with Grafe, who has been doing the bridge design and the current trail design, have them design a pathway around the park, and then that also includes putting together construction documents and then oversight of any construction once, if the bids are within our budgeted means. We're looking at probably getting a lot of that stuff ready this fall, bidding it out over the winter if it were to be approved, and then in 24 when construction would be starting.
Rex, is there any idea on how you're going to get over to the fairgrounds? Are they going to go to the riverside of the waste treatment plant?
I think everyone's hopes are that we can go behind New Water. We've had several discussions with New Water already over here at the New Water plant in De Pere. We've also had a meeting over at their main plant downtown with the main staff there. They are aware that we want to do it. In fact, they said we figured at some point in the future someone was going to want to do that. So this isn't anything new to them. I'll be honest, they're not excited about it because there's security concerns on their part, and that's what they need to be concerned about that. But they're willing to work with us. At least when we had the previous meetings, they said they were willing to work with us on finding out a way to make this happen. Brown County's talked a little bit in the past about trying to do a midpoint crossing west of New Water, between the river and Broadway, which we're not as excited about, because to us, our involvement is, we wanted a waterway trail. And from the village's perspective, the money that we're paying, that's what we're going to get. The rest of it is Brown County, and it'll be up to the village board, when that time comes, to see whatever they propose, of whether or not it's going to be acceptable to the village or not.
All right, then the next question I have is the way, when you make the loop to go down to the old boat landing there, is that trail from the river to the boat landing necessary, knowing you could be going behind the waste treatment plant? Or is that just this trail going out to, let's say, Broadway? Is that another entrance to the trail?
Yeah, we want to make a whole circuitous loop, Gary, on within the park. A lot of the woods area along Ashwaubenon Creek right now that already has a trail in it. Mm-hmm. So this would almost make a full circuitous loop for people to use.
Okay.
So I guess what we're looking for tonight is just approval on that project. I don't have I lost my page. to see what the final budget number is on that. I want to say it was 40.
44.6.
Yeah, 44.6. But that includes the whole shebang in terms of if it were to be approved, all the construction documents, the oversight once a bid is opened, of an award is given, they'd be doing the whole thing.
Okay, I'll move to approve the planning approval for the Ashwaubenon River Trail extension for the cost of $44,600.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the Ashwaubomay River Trail Extension contract with Grape Planning for the, to the amount of $44,600. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. 11K, action on reconsideration of Grant Packerland Roundabout Intergovernmental Agreement. Brian Rickert.
All right, so this item may seem somewhat familiar to you guys as it was recently presented to you guys back in March. At that point in time, both Public Works and Protection and the Village Board did advise staff to reach back out to Brown County and work with them to see if there could be some fiscal responsibility from both Hobart and Lawrence to partake in this intergovernmental agreement, as the roundabout at Grant and Packerland does lie in those other two municipalities. With that, we did meet with the Highway Commissioner and the County Highway Engineer. We did get a letter back from the county back in May, just submitting to us a revised proposal that does make both Hobart and Lawrence responsible for some parts of the project. They broke up the percentages based on the municipal boundaries, which is on page 2 of the letter that we received from the county, which essentially takes Ashwaubenon, which was originally at $186,000 down to $160,000, Hobart being $20,000, and Lawrence being just shy of $6,000. So with that, you have the revised intergovernmental agreement with Brown County. Just a quick reminder that this is a STP urban project. So 80% of the overall project is being funded by federal funds.
Okay. And Brian, it looks like they have sidewalks planned and the whole thing.
Correct. Yep.
And thank you for working on this and getting the other two communities involved. I appreciate it.
Right. The only thing, I know the county is kind of working through some details of how they handle sidewalks and when acquiring right-of-way. So I'm hoping that that doesn't become a challenge, but I know they have a different outlook on that.
Well, and they got federal funding, so the federal funding would require it, so.
Correct.
Then.
It's kind of, it'll be a battle between them and the
does the
feds.
federal funding go away then, and that's 80%, so that's a big chunk of money to give back.
Correct.
You know, Brian, I know Ashwaubonon's got most of the property there, but you know, all three of these communities are gonna, I'm gonna use the word benefit for a roundabout, but it is a roundabout. Why isn't that split in thirds when everybody's benefiting by it? Is it just because of the land we own? I mean, the majority of it?
Yeah, that's essentially it. And I wish I had a better answer as to why the municipal boundaries are drawn the way that they're drawn. They are unique. There is other locations throughout the county that they're drawn like this, or similar to this in a very unique fashion. But you can kind of see how a vast majority, especially the core of the roundabout, the center of it, does fall on Ashwaubenon.
Yeah, I see that, but you know, it's like, hey, everybody's benefiting by it.
So is this roundabout, is it, who's maintaining it going forward?
Yeah, with county trunk highways, once the improvement has been made, Brown County would then maintain the right of way. Yeah.
Will they be putting landscaping in the middle,
Good
or have
answer.
they gone that far with their design?
They have not gone that far. I think it all depends on what level of landscaping is being requested by the municipalities. I know some roundabouts that you may see are very complex, and it all just depends on, you know, what the request from the municipality is. If it is above and beyond, it does fall back on the municipality to maintain it. The other thing that I would like to add, we did bring this through Public Works and Protection. They did recommend approval of the revised intergovernmental agreement.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Brown County Highway Department for the design, construction of the Grant Packerland Roundabout and allocate funds from TIP 4 in the amount of $160,105.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Brown County Highway Department for the design, construction of the Grant Packerland Roundabout and allocate funds from TIP 4 in the amount of $160,105. Any other discussion?
Brian, is there any going to be resurfacing done there at the same time?
No, they do not have anything planned, just whatever is needed for the realignment of the roadways to tie into the roundabout.
Down that road this morning, it's like running across a rubble jumps.
I think there is a portion that is south of Grant Street.
Yeah, south is where I was.
Yeah, and that's in Hobart, Lawrence.
Yeah.
I could check into that. I'm not aware of anything, but I think they do have something planned. I just don't have the details of that.
Okay.
Brian, will you please keep us in the loop if there's an issue with the federal funding and with the eminent domain and all that stuff for the sidewalk portion of it?
Yeah, that's definitely something I'll probably start including it in my monthly report to Bike and Ped, just so we can keep track of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 11L, action on consideration of change order 1 for parking lot improvements.
All right, so I'll jump into this one also. So if you guys may or may not know, they did start working on the reconstruction of the parking lot, the public safety parking lot on the north side of Village Hall near public safety. When we started doing the pulverizing of the existing asphalt out there, it was actually determined that the asphalt was 4 inches. In our records and plans, we had originally anticipated it only being 3 inches. Seeing as though there's heavy commercial traffic out there, essentially the fire trucks and fire apparatus, we feel as though we should stick with that thicker pavement. Of course, they do training out there, and we want to make sure that we have a durable pavement surface and it doesn't prematurely fail, especially since we are kind of reinvesting, in that parking lot, adding curb and gutter, helping with the drainage a little bit. So along with this change order, it does include adding kind of a depressed sidewalk section in the entrance to the driveway. Currently, some of the plow frames or receiving hitches of our plow trucks actually do bottom out in that apron when they go up it. So by shallowing that or depressing it, makes the apron a little bit more shallow, allowing for fire apparatus, plow trucks, stuff like that to easier traverse those different grades coming into the driveway.
I see they already started that. I'll move to approve the additional costs to, I lost it here, the additional cost to do the rear parking lot entrance.
Second.
I'll second it. The one question I would have then, are they, so they're basically gonna skim it down and put 4 inches back in there is what they're gonna do, Brian?
Correct. Yeah. So the way that the contract is set up is it's a pulverized job. So they're essentially grinding up the existing asphalt.
That's kind of where
and they'll re-blend that in with the gravel that was below it. Okay. So they will have to remove some material because there is certain grades that we have to hit because we're not removing some of the existing, parking areas or thickened edge sidewalk. But yes, there will be some gravel removed.
Okay, and how does this fit within the budget that was approved for this project? Is 21, are we still within the budget? I don't recall when the bids came in where we were at.
Correct. Yeah, that's something that I spoke with Greg and both Joel. There is no major concerns with financially supporting the project. The project is partially TIF funded. So we did check to make sure that, the funding will be available.
Okay, all good.
Question on the Brett Favre Pass, so that is not, Brett Favre Pass sidewalk is going to be removed. That's part of this change order as well.
Correct.
And the reason behind that is because we have a potential new development, and then when they develop, they would be required to put the sidewalk in. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we will
Yep.
get a sidewalk, but it'll just be the developer's dime rather than the village's.
Correct.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any more discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve the change order for the parking lot improvements in the amount of $21,617. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 11M, action on consideration of dump truck box replacement. That's hard to say. Okay, Mr. Rickert.
All right. So annually, we go through all of our commercial vehicles and do a DOT inspection. So that essentially combs through the truck from the top to the bottom, looking at the brake system, looking at the frame, everything. So that could mechanically fail or create any sort of issues on the trail of a roadway. This truck that is brought before you is one of our fleet vehicles, 16 years old, is showing its age. You know, it is 16 years old and it's used for winter plowing operations. When our mechanic was going through following the DOT procedures, you check various things. The box itself, there is hinge points that the box pivots on in order to tip back. Unfortunately, that mechanism started rusting from the inside out. You may sometimes see that rust occur on some vehicles, actually, where you can kind of see the bubbling occurring. Unfortunately, it isn't until, you know, the bubbling occurs when you realize what issue you truly have. So it led us to dig further, kind of deem this truck as being unsafe for the roadway, because it could be that the truck box, as it's driving down the roadway, tipping back to get more salt to the back of the truck, could fall off from the frame of the truck. So ultimately, we took the truck out of service. This is a truck that we not only use for winter operations, but also for leaf collection. So it is kind of a, we'll say, frontline truck. Normally, if it was strictly used for just one operation, I would say, let's just see if we can hold off and kind of adjust our operations to get us through. The quote that you have in front of you is for a carbon steel box. It's not for a stainless steel box. Reason for that is the truck is not planned to be kept in our fleet for an extended period of time. So we want to make sure that we're not, you know, investing a ton of money into a truck that we know that we may not be hanging on to for an extended period of time.
Move to approve the quote for Olson Body. I know it is Olson Body and Trailer, but Trailer and Body in the amount of $15,181 using ARPA funds.
I second that because it's a lot cheaper than no truck.
You got it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the quote from Olson Trailer and Body in the amount of $15,181 using ARPA funds.
One quick question. How much ARPA funds do we have left yet, you guys?
That would be a
Finance
great
guy.
question. I don't know ARPA funds remaining.
We have, everything we have was kind of designated in the 2023 budget. If you give me just a second, I can pull up my actual worksheet. I want to say it without, I don't want to give you a number, it's not right.
And it's been a while that we talked about ARPA, so ARPA obviously can be used for this type of work too, correct?
Correct. So basically, all of our ARPA funds are available as like revenue replacement dollars. So the money that we got from ARPA was to replace revenue that was lost from COVID, and that revenue that we lost was a variety of items that would have been used in any of our budget areas. So as long as it met that criteria, we weren't limited to like infrastructure or some of the wireless, you know, hotspots and things like that. Our revenue was, we lost room tax dollars. Well, room tax dollars were used equally among all of our budgeted departments. So we're able to use those funds accordingly.
Okay.
I'll pull up here, I'm sorry. So accounting for what was in the 2023 budget and approved, the one item that we took out was the parking lot project. So we have roughly just under $290,000 available. However, we've had internal discussions about use of those funds for something like a pocket park, for example, might be an option, or there's a variety of things. We just haven't come to the table. I think at the budget time is when we will really kind of pull all that together and make recommendations. Because we've also got part of the TIF funding is we've had the Morris Avenue and Element Way projects came in under budget. So we had bonding for those that we can use for road construction projects, which include the parking lot. So we're in a good position in that regard, but we just want to make sure we're thinking a little bit long-term as well over the next year or two with upcoming needs that we don't forget about and then end up bonding for them in error.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we voted on that.
A motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second to buy a new box for the dump truck. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now, number 12, items for next agenda. If you have anything, give a call to the office. Staff will get it together. Number 13, closed session items. During the meeting, the village board of the Village of Ashwaubenon may convene into closed session pursuant to item number A listed on the green sheet. And I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to go into closed session. Roll call.
President Kardasky.
Yes.
Trustee Paul.
Yes.
Trustee Service.
Yes.
Trustee Krieger.
Yes.
And Trustee Flukie.
Yes.
We're in closed session. Thank you, everybody.
Who won?
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Brian did.